Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us here today. This is Michael Helper from SalesScripter, and the topic today is how to message prospects on LinkedIn, referring to either using LinkedIn to find people and message them through the messaging feature of LinkedIn, or messaging contacts that you're already connected with that you might think that they're prospects and that they might buy from you. So we'll go through a methodology of how to do that here today. And so our agenda for today is, first I want to start out talking about some do's and don'ts regarding sending messages to prospects. And I just want to point out really on the front end here, so you likely have something you want to sell. There's people on LinkedIn that you want to sell to, and you want them to reply to your messages. And so our natural instincts are to, what can I do to trick this person into replying to my message? What can I do to send messages that people reply to, and send messages so that people buy from me? And I think that mindset is not optimum. Meaning, first of all, there's no magical thing that you can do that's just going to make people just reply to all your messages, and for people just to buy from you 10 times easier than what you're experiencing today. And I personally think that selling is not about trickery. It's not about manipulating someone into doing something that they currently aren't doing. It's not about manipulating them into wanting something that they don't need or don't want. I personally believe it's about communicating effectively, and honestly, I think that you can look at it two ways. If you're currently sending messages and people aren't replying, you can look at it as, what can I do to make these people like me and be nicer and respond more? Or another thing you can do is you can say, well, what am I doing today that's turning these people away, that's turning people off, that's making people annoyed? Because if they're not replying to you, they might not be liking your message and wanting to interact with you. So what I'm trying to say there is, there's two different ways to go. One is, how can I make people like me and respond better? Or what can you do to avoid making people dislike you? If you're following me there. And honestly, I think that the what can I do to not annoy my prospects is an easier thing for you to do. In other words, let me try to say that another way. It's easier for you to create a message that your prospect that minimizes your prospect deleting it immediately without reading it, versus creating a message that makes someone reply to your message. Now, so if you can at least start out by not annoying people and pushing people away, that is a huge step forward. And along with those changes, if you can motivate some of those people to reply and engage with you, then you can begin to take steps forward. Now, none of those are making small changes that you're going to instantly change what you're currently doing today by 10 times and sell 10 times more than what you're doing today. But we're going to go through here today are real things that you can do to see immediate changes, and they are real positive steps for you to communicate and deal with people in a better way on LinkedIn. And by that, we're going to start out by talking about some do's and don'ts with how to communicate. Some of these do's and don'ts are, some of them are just things that I did as a salesperson. Some of them are things that I've really noticed as being a prospect, because on LinkedIn my title is CEO, founder and CEO, and I don't know what, there's probably people on this webinar that either have that same title or have a management title, but I get people selling to me more with a management title than I did when I had a salesperson's title. And so I observe a lot of the don'ts with the messages. I mean, one of the examples I'm going to share throughout the webinar today is an email that I received today. Every day I get messages from salespeople trying to sell to me, and I think that the majority of them are things that I wouldn't recommend that you do. So those are some of the the don'ts that we'll go through, and with each don't we can kind of think about, okay, well, how does that relate to something that we should do? And so we'll go through those, and then based on those do's and don'ts, I'm going to show you 6 different email templates that you could use or get some ideas from for your messages that you'll send to prospects. And then we'll talk about following up on your messages, and then we'll close with just talking about another approach for you to think about. So really short agenda here today, and let's just start with the do's and don'ts. So the first don't is, I can't stress this enough, is don't make it all about you. By the way, we're going to go through a bunch of don'ts. These don'ts apply to sending messages through LinkedIn. They also can be applied to sending emails through your regular email system. They can also just apply to how you communicate with someone when you're talking to them, whether it's over the phone or in person. But I want you to not make it about you. And salespeople, this is your natural instinct, is to make it about you. And you know, if you stop and think about it, it's easy to do. It's understandable that we all do this. You know, you're a salesperson, you have a product to sell. You probably think about that product every day of the week, not only during the week but also on the weekends. Me, for example, the product I sell is SalesScripter, a piece of software. I think about SalesScripter every single day, right? So you think about it. This is like the most important hobby to you. Not only is it something you know a lot about and think a lot about, but it's selling that product is how you get paid. It's how you're able to survive. It's how you're able to provide for your family. It's what enables you to do more things in life. It's actually also extremely rewarding to you just from an achievement standpoint when you sell your product. So this is your hobby, right? And so when you engage with a prospect, you want to talk about your product, and I think it's not a good thing to do. Let me just show you an example. Like I said, this is a message I got today. And I mean, there's a million messages I could show you, but this is one I received today, so I just stuck this in this slide deck. But this is someone I just connected with, and then they follow up with me accepting their connection request with this message. He says, "Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. We are an award-winning full-service digital agency that helps brands drive consumer engagement, blah, blah, blah. For over 12 years, we've been bringing hands together." It goes on. The message was so long, by the way, that this is the little window in LinkedIn, and there was about 2 or 3 pages of this, stuff about him. And this is a message that's all about him. And I would say to not do this because, what I would tell you to do is to make it about the other person. And so let's just say that you're in a personal, social situation. You're eating dinner, whether with a friend or maybe you're someone romantically interested in. Let's say that you like to play golf as a sport. That's a hobby that you have. Let's say that the other person likes to play tennis, right? They don't know anything about golf. They don't know how the rules. They don't know the terminology or anything. Well, let's say that you spend the entire meal talking about golf. How interesting is it going to be for that other person? And you, by the way, don't have any knowledge about tennis, and you don't really care about tennis, but all you do is sit there and talk about golf. Well, do you think that person is going to want to go out to eat with you again, or going to reflect back on that meal as being enjoyable? Probably not. Now, what if you, even knowing you love golf and you don't care about tennis, remember the other person is interested in tennis. Let's say that you spend the entire meal asking questions about the game of tennis and asking them about how they play tennis, where they play, the things they like about it, whatever. Which of those scenarios is going to be more productive? Now, technically, you might enjoy talking about golf more. So, if I were to say which one's going to be more enjoyable for you, probably you're going to want to talk about what you're interested in. But you're a salesperson, and they're the prospect. So, if you want to progress with that relationship and through the process, you want to make it about them. So, the next do's and don'ts. So, don't sound like a salesperson trying to sell something. Let me show you what a salesperson trying to sell something does. Is they typically have some sort of sales pitch, and the salesperson that the sales pitch for that salesperson is they'll talk about the company that they work for. They'll talk about what they sell and what they do and the services and products. They'll talk about how it works and how it was designed or some details about the product. They might talk about how it's priced. And their message is to close the sale. And actually we can go back to the same example. This message is not only all about him, but it's a product pushing message. We are an award-winning full-service digital agency, and he goes into detail about the 12 years, right? This is a product pushing sales pitch. And while you don't see the end of the message here, this message, even knowing, let's say I were to hire him this service from him, I mentioned that the product pushing pitch tries to close the sale. Certainly, even if I were to express interest in buying from him, of course I don't purchase over LinkedIn and purchase from this one email. We would have multiple conversations. But what I mean by this message is always trying to close the sale. It's trying to validate, I sell this today. Do you need this? Do you want this? Do you want to purchase this from me? Maybe it's not in that exact interaction, a conversation or email, but the message is all qualifying, do you need what I sell? So it's trying to close the sale. So if we don't want you to sound like a salesperson selling something, you certainly are a salesperson trying to sell something. So what can you do? Well, I want you, and we're on LinkedIn, right? So on LinkedIn, everybody's it's a professional environment, so it's not a big, everybody's working for somebody, whether you're working for yourself or whatever. So you don't have to hide the fact that you're a business person. In fact, that's what I want you to represent yourself as. Instead of representing yourself as a salesperson trying to sell something, I want you to present yourself more as a business person or more as a consultant. And we're not trying to manipulate anything here. You can present yourself as a consultant or business person that has a product that they represent and maybe something that they actually might want to sell at some point. But that's different than being, hey, do you want to buy this from me? I want to get you on the phone so I can talk to you about buying this from me. There's something totally different with being a business person that represents a company, a brand, a service. And so how do you do that? Well, let's go back to this slide. If on the left side is the product pusher, then let's outline what the consultative salesperson looks like. Instead of talking about the product and the service, they talk about more about the benefits and the value that the product delivers. They focus more on the pain points that the product helps to resolve. They focus more on asking good questions, and good questions to ask are questions that probe to see if the prospect has any pain. They share customer examples of other people they've helped. If they differ in some sort of way, they highlight that. If they deliver some sort of ROI, they highlight that. And instead of trying to close the sale, which is, do you need what I sell? Are you looking to purchase this? The goal is, hey, let's talk. And so I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. But there's no manipulation or trickery on the right. It's just about communicating more professionally and focusing on, it's like if you're a doctor, right? If you're a doctor and you have medicine, you're not trying to trick people into taking your medicine that don't need it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to diagnose people that have the issue that your medicine fits with, right? And you'll notice, like, if you go to the doctor and you're not feeling well, they're always trying to figure out what you have, and you might end up where the doctor says, all your tests and everything looks fine, so I don't have anything for you, right? So that's what you want to present yourself as, is a business person and a consultant, and you're looking for the people that need your help, that have the problems that you can help to fix. And we'll apply that to communicating over LinkedIn. If you want more information on going through those steps and building your consultative message, here's a link to a webinar on consultative selling. The next don't and do, let's say, so what I get all the time, I get this every day. In fact, the example I keep showing you is one of these, and it's what I call the instant pitch. And so this is what it looks like. So someone sends an invite to another person to connect. So I open LinkedIn for the day, and I'll have invites there, and I accept them pretty open. I'm a pretty open networker on LinkedIn, so I pretty much accept them, and then immediately right after I accept, and so step 2 is I accept the invite, and immediately after that is I get an email from that person with their product pushing pitch, and this is an example of one of those I got today. So this is someone that I accepted his message when I started my day, and about 30 minutes later I get this message from him. Now, I don't think that's good for a few reasons. One is, for some of the things we've already talked about, it's all about you because you're trying to push your pitch. You sound like a salesperson. I also think it's kind of rude because you asked me to connect and now you're trying to sell to me. So LinkedIn is a business networking community, and people go on LinkedIn for different reasons. But when you send me an invite to connect, and then you sell to me, I think that there's something rude in that process, because I don't think you're sending me an invite to connect to be my friend and for us to chit chat socially. I don't think that at all. But maybe we want to share information. Maybe we want to get exposed to each other's networks. Maybe we want to collaborate. But I'm not accepting your connection request for an open invitation for you to sell to me. And oh, by the way, when I accept your connection request, you get my email address and you get access to more information. So it's a little rude, I think, for you to invite someone. It's sort of like it's kind of like if you're a man and you're interested in a woman, and you stop a woman on the street and you say, "Do you know where Starbucks is?" And then she's giving you directions, and you go, "Oh, can I get your phone number too? Because I want to ask you out on a date," right? There's something inauthentic there. It's manipulative. It's a little trickery, right? If you want to ask the woman for her number and ask her on a date, get straight to that. Don't trick her by asking her about Starbucks. And so I think that the instant pitch is a little bit of trickery. But you know what? If you want to do that, what I would say, if you want to still sell over and send your product pushing message to people you connect with, and you still want to connect with the people that you want to sell to, I would say do two things. Either delay your message, your product pitch message, meaning if I accept your connection today, send me the product message in a week. Put a delay on it. That way it's not just bam, I'm in your network and now I'm going to sell to you. So add a little delay there, or decrease the amount of pitchiness and product pushiness in your message, and the templates we'll show you here later will definitely be less pitchy. So that could help solve the problem for you. So the next one is, don't put your prospect to work. And I get this all the time where, and so, it's sort of like, and let's go back to, you're asking someone out to be your guest on a date at a restaurant for a meal or in your home or whatever. If you're asking someone, if someone is your guest, you want to be the one that does the work, right? So like if you're inviting someone over to your house for dinner, you cook the dinner. You don't have them cook the dinner, right? So the prospect is your guest, and you're the salesperson. You're trying to earn their business. So you don't want them to do the work throughout the process. Now, that's not to say you don't want them to go through some hoops and throughout the sales process, so that that's a whole nother conversation. But what I mean by, and how I'm applying this to link messages on LinkedIn is I get messages all the time where we connect, and then they send me a very broad question like, what do you do? Or what are you working on? Or what are your biggest challenges? So now imagine that I'm a business owner, business person, and I'm extremely busy, which I am. And that's what your probably ideal prospect is, especially really if you're doing B2B sales. Really everybody that you're trying to sell to or communicate with is busy, because most likely they're at work, or it's just easy to assume that people are busy. And can you picture like a business owner who's extremely busy? getting a message from someone on LinkedIn saying, "What do you do?" and then them spending their valuable time explaining what they do in a LinkedIn message to just about a complete stranger if honestly, if someone would take their valuable time to answer that question, I would tell you that's not a qualified prospect. Because if they have the time to sit there and explain to a complete stranger what they do, then they are not busy enough and successful enough and have enough authority in their organization to purchase your product. There's something wrong with them answering your question. But that's a whole nother conversation. But anyways, so and it's the same thing with what are you working on? What are your challenges? You don't want, even if you don't want someone to sit there and someone is not going to sit there and go, oh well, I'm having challenges with this, I'm having challenges with that, and share all this information for one reason, because it takes time and energy, and also, if someone doesn't know you, they're just going to sit there and share all this information with you about the challenges they're having. So that's not a good way to go, in my own personal opinion. If it's working for you, continue to do it. I personally, when I get those questions, I almost laugh at them. Now, so what you can be is more specific in your questions. Also, by the way, your LinkedIn profile regarding what you do, most LinkedIn profiles have all the answers to what you do and what you're working on. That's what your LinkedIn profile says. It says your experience. I mean, the only reason that you might want to ask that you can legitimately ask that question without it being completely rude, is if their LinkedIn profile is blank. But I'll tell you, mine's not blank, and probably most of the people that people send that question to have the name of their company, their title, and a description, and you're still going to ask them, what do you do? What are you working on? So, sorry, getting into too much detail there. The do on the other side of that would be just to be more specific in your question. So if you want to focus on their challenges, maybe share the challenges that you help to solve with them. For example, so if you're a doctor and you have one thing of medicine and you're only looking for people that fit that medicine, you could give them the symptoms that you are looking for. So, do you have trouble, breathing at night? Do you have trouble sleeping? Do you feel tired during the day? Those are all challenges. So if those are challenges that your medicine helps to solve, give the prospect those challenges. Say, hey, and by the way, actually, time out on that role play. I have an email template that shows challenges, so I'll show you how to do that in your message. But be more specific. The other thing that you could do is, instead of asking what do you do, look at their profile and figure it out for yourself by reading their profile. Moving on. Don't try to sell the product over your LinkedIn message or over your email. Okay, and so let me go back to this message. This is the same message that we keep going back to. This guy is trying to sell the product on the message. He's telling me what they do. He's telling me how it works. He's telling me the hourly rates, and he's trying to sell this. Again, this email doesn't have a button to like buy now or a line for me to sign, right? But he is trying. His sales process is, I'm going to send this message, and either the person's going to agree to move forward and purchase, or the sales process is pretty much going to end. And so don't try to sell the product. What I want you to do is sell the conversation, okay? And that's something very, very different. And let me show you what that looks like. So here are some main steps that most salespeople can go through in B2B selling, really regardless of what you sell, but it can slightly vary depending on your product. But the first step in the process is the initial contact, and that can either be a call, it can be an email, and so we're talking about sending messages to prospects on LinkedIn. So this is that first LinkedIn message, right? Now, when you're sending the message and you're saying, do you need what I sell? Let me know if you need this. Then what you're trying to do is the next box that you're trying to go from step 1 to step 2 is customer purchases, right? Or you send a proposal. And what I would want you to do is have a next step of just a conversation. And then the next step of that might be the presentation. and then the step after that might be the purchase. So maybe with your product you don't present anything. Well, in step 3 for you might be to provide a quote. I mean, maybe you have a very simple sales process, right? It's that when they want it, you give them a quote and then they purchase from you. Well, you still have the initial contact, and then there still might be some sort of brief conversation, because they're not just going to not know who you are, and then even if it's a very quick close and quick turnaround sales process, there's still going to be some sort of interaction there. Maybe you never talk to them, but maybe it's email exchanges. And then there's some sort of presentation. So the presentation stage could be a demonstration or a proposal or sending a paperwork or information. But anyways, these are typically the 3 steps you go through. And with LinkedIn messages, you're right here. And what I want your LinkedIn message to focus on is the conversation, right? So anytime you send a LinkedIn message saying, do you need this? Are you looking to make a change? I want to schedule a call with you to talk about this. You are skipping the conversation, because what you're doing, the way you're skipping it is because it's all in your close. What you're closing for. When you say, do you guys need this, or are you looking to make a change, your close is trying to close the product. By closing, your close should be for the appointment. So the close, and I'll show you that in some of the email templates that I give you. But instead of saying, do you let me know if you guys need this, or I want to schedule or are you guys looking to make a change? Change it to are you interested in having a brief conversation? And so I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. But the main important thing, and you can also apply this to your cold calling. When you're cold calling, it's about closing for the conversation. It's not about closing for the sale. So let me give you another example regarding cold calling, and maybe you can apply that to your LinkedIn messages. And I've used this example before because I think a representative from a payroll provider that we used to use called me up probably a year or 2 ago, and she said, are you guys looking to evaluate payroll providers, right? That was her main question to me. Are you looking to make a change? Because I'm using someone else now, right? So that question is closing me for the product. Are you looking to make a change, right? This is on a cold call, and her message could have been, hey, I know you guys you're using someone today, obviously. You've switched over. Maybe she could ask me who we switched to, which she didn't ask that. But, I know you're using someone today, and odds are you're probably not, looking today and thinking about making a change. But I'm your rep. I'm new over here. You and I haven't talked. You might make a change at some point. I'm always in your area. I want to pop by and just kind of meet you and have a quick chat, right? So that close right there is closing for the conversation. It's not closing for the service. And when you close on the conversation, objections like, I'm already using someone, I don't have budget, I'm not looking to make a change, we are not interested, those don't apply. Those objections apply if the close is, are you looking to make a change? I can easily shut that down because I'm not. But if the close is for the conversation, then those really don't apply. The fact that I'm already using someone today is not a valid reason for me not to chat with her for 15 minutes when she's in the neighborhood. And she has reasons of why she can close for the chat, which is, haven't met you yet, I'm in your rep in the area, we're doing stuff differently, we've made some changes, I want and so there's lots of reasons there. So you can apply that same thing to your LinkedIn messages. And instead of saying, do you guys need this, say, I just want, I'm looking just to start the conversation. The next thing is, and some of these next don'ts are kind of minor. They are just things that I've noticed. So maybe some of them you don't. A lot of these you probably don't do. So my thought with these do's and don'ts is, if one of these apply to things that you're currently doing or you might end up doing, take, just apply the few that apply. Consider the few that apply to you, and some of these might not apply, and some of them are kind of minor. But one thing I've noticed with people that connect is they use. I want you to be authentic. I don't want you to try to trick me into anything, or trick your prospects into anything. I don't want you to try to manipulate anybody. I've said that a few times already. I want you to be authentic. And so one thing that I think is a bit inauthentic is people will often say, hey, I read your profile and I found it interesting. And then they will mention that in a long message that is pre-typed out, and they'll stick my company name in a template. In other words, their email will be like 4 paragraphs long, 300 words, and in the first paragraph, my name or something about my company or my title will be in the first paragraph. And what it's obvious is that they just copied my information into a template, but they're telling me that they found my profile interesting. And what that means to me is you're not being honest. You're acting like you read my profile, and now you are just sticking my name in a template that you're sending to 1 million people. So the one thing to kind of apply to that is, if you're gonna use someone's profile and information, look at their profile and then actually tailor your message to them. Meaning, look at what their current role is, and then have less of a template and more of a tailored message for them. And kind of in line with what I just explained, sending me this template of 4 paragraphs, 300 words. If you're sending messages over LinkedIn, you want them to be as short as possible, right? So, and this applies to any email. So the longer the message is, the quicker it will be to be deleted. The quicker people will delete it and not read any of your message. And it's just like, I'm just trying to think of an analogy here, but like if you think of like when you were a kid in high school or in school, and the teacher would assign something for you to read, first thing you did was look at how long it was, right? If it was a few pages or a long book or whatever, and think about that feeling when they give you something to read and it's extremely long. Well, your prospect feels that same exact thing when they click on your email, right? So if it's 4 long paragraphs, the prospect's not going to read any of it, right? So what's better what's the better scenario for you? To send an email that you get all your information in that nobody reads, or a shorter email that doesn't have all your information that some people read, right? So that's what I would recommend you. So what I would recommend you is try to use 3 to 4 sentences for your messages on LinkedIn. One thing that I kind of do is I'll look at messages and I'll think, I look at them like when I create an email, I look at each word and sentence the same way I do when I'm packing a suitcase for a trip. Have you ever put everything out on the bed that you're thinking about taking with you somewhere? Or this is something you might want to try when you travel, is put everything out, all the shirts and outfits that you want and the shoes, and then look at each thing and say, do I really need that? What are the odds of me using that? Is having that worth carrying it around in the suitcase, right? So use that same thing when you're creating email templates. Is, okay, that point there that I included, does that really make my message more powerful? Is that really important? Am I saying the same thing there already more than once? So just something to keep in mind. This is something I get a lot, and I call it the bait and switch. So someone will send me an invite, and they'll actually customize the invite. You know how you can customize an invite to connect? And it'll say something like this: I would love to add you to my network and would love to connect and have you as part of my network, something like that. Then, as soon as I connect, then they send me the instant pitch or the sales pitch or the product pushing pitch. So I call this the would love to connect, or almost maybe would love to network, and then it's I would love to sell to you, right? So, I think that be just more direct if you're going to sell to them. If you're going to send them the instant pitch, don't tailor your message. I just think it's a little inauthentic, again, a little rude. And so just be a little bit more consistent with your messaging. If you're going to network, have a networking message throughout. If you're going to sell to them and try to make them a customer, communicate that way throughout. This is something I get a lot where on LinkedIn you can create articles, and this happens mostly with LinkedIn articles or LinkedIn blog posts, but I guess could also happen with people creating their own articles on their company website. But I often get emails from people that just wrote an article, and they're directing me to their article, and not only promoting their article, but they're also asking me to like or share or comment on it. And honestly, as coming from someone who creates a lot of articles and videos, this is a little amateurish, if you ask me. If you create a lot of content, you're not out there asking for likes, and you're not asking for people to share. It's a little needy. It's also it's very all about me, and when you create articles, the people that want to read your articles will typically find their way to them through people sharing or internet Google searches or whatnot. And the odds of you sending that to someone on LinkedIn, most like they're not. It's basically like, if you here's another example. If you write a book and put it in a bookstore, the people that want to read your book will find your book. If you just randomly write a book on a topic and then walk up to someone and say, "Hey, do you want to buy this book?" the odds that that person wants to read that topic at that particular time and appreciate it is not very likely. And so when you send messages to people with your own articles, it's a little bit all about you. It's selfish, and the odds of it really fitting, being the doctor with the medicine with the person that has that need, is not very likely. I don't know, unless maybe you know what unless you've really isolated the topic of that article with that person's profile in particular. But most of the time, I think when I get that, it's more of a blast that they're sending it out to like their whole contact list. But anyways, here's another thought. If you do that, or even if you don't do that, here's something to think about, is to send articles written by other people more as instead of you being a self-promoter, which is, again, that person sitting at the dinner table talking about golf, which is what they love, and you don't love golf. So instead of being a self-promoter, share other people's information, which totally changes the dynamic. It makes you an information sharer, someone who's looking to help. So it's something that you might want to consider with your LinkedIn messages. So this happens to me all the time. I'll accept someone's invitation to connect, and then I start getting their email marketing to my email account for the email address that's in my LinkedIn profile. So what they're doing is, once they connect, then they get my email address, which, by the way, for me, and I think this is probably for half the people on LinkedIn, it's their personal email address. My email address has always been my Gmail email on LinkedIn. And so I start getting these business marketing emails into my Gmail account, which is just more annoying than anything else. Just because someone accepts your LinkedIn connection request doesn't mean they're opting in to your email marketing for your company. And those are two different things. And so it's rude, and I don't think it's a good way to go. I mean, most of the time when this does happen, there's usually an unsubscribe button, which is good at least, but sometimes there's not. So what I would recommend is, if you have an email marketing system that you want to get the people that you come across on LinkedIn over to, there's a couple things. One is, engage with them before you add them to your system. So this might be, let me exchange some messages on LinkedIn, which is, again, we're getting close to me showing the templates to you. It's, I think, in the next slide or two. But so engage with some messages, or wait till you have a conversation with them, or find a way to get them to opt into your list on their own. Meaning, Maybe you have, like for us, for example, we have ebooks on our website, and if you want to download our ebooks, you end up on our email marketing list. So you could create some sort of opt-in call to action and promote that on LinkedIn through, a status share, or maybe send it out to some people, and as an option for them to select and to opt in on their own. All right, enough of the do's and don'ts. You're probably ready to get through those and done with those, and some of those might be not really applicable to you. Let's get right to probably what you're here for, which are 6 email templates. So the first email template is what I call the problem solver. Now remember, I talked about I want you to not push products, I want you to be a consultative salesperson. And when we talked about the consultative approach, we talked about benefits, problems, and customer examples, and a few other things. Well, if you know some of the problems you solve, well, here's a template that you might be able to use. Hello, prospect. I came across your profile and wanted to reach out because we find that VPs of HR can often have challenges with pain 1, pain 2, pain 3. If you are concerned about any of those areas, we probably could have a productive conversation as we help to fix and decrease those challenges. Are you interested in scheduling a brief 15-minute introductory call? Okay, so that's something you could very easily send either through a LinkedIn message. You could actually probably fit that into a invitation to connect type message. But a few things there. It's not product pushing. It's fairly short. Again, it is 3 sentences with 3 bullet points in the middle, so fairly short. It is consultative. It focuses on pain points. It's not manipulative at all. So that's what I would call the problem solver template. The next template is what I call the improver. Hello, prospect. I came across your profile and wanted to reach out because we help CIOs to improvement 1, improvement 2, improvement 3. If you're interested in improving any of those areas, we probably could have a productive conversation as we help to drive those improvements. Are you interested in scheduling a brief 15-minute introductory call? The other thing, I don't know that I mentioned this on the other template, if you haven't noticed, these are not selling the product, these are selling the meeting. And we're sharing why it might be a productive meeting. The next template is the informer. So, hello, prospect. I came across your profile, and since you are a director of operations, I thought you might find this article interesting. So this goes back to the sharing of articles. So that's why I call this the informer. You're sharing information. So this is a very non-salesy. It's almost kind of like you might not. You're kind of like reminding people that you're out in the world and you're sharing information. So you can insert the article link. You could, underneath that, you could insert maybe an explanation of the article. Hope you find something of value in that, and great to have you as part of my network! Exclamation point. So that's it. That's the whole message. So there's no request for a meeting. So that's why this is the informer. Maybe you get a response, and from your response you can schedule a meeting, but it's again just to inform and broadcast out to your network. The networker, so this is probably one of the better ways to collaborate, especially if you connect with people on LinkedIn. I think this is probably the better way to engage, even if you think that person is perfect for me for a prospect profile and I want to sell to that person. This might still be a better angle for you to go from. And so, hello, prospect. Great to have you in my LinkedIn network, but so there's a word missing. So it should say, but it does not work as well if we don't know much about each other. To change that and make our connection more powerful, I try to spend 15 to 20 minutes with my contacts so that I can learn a little bit more about you, about what you do, and can share any information from my side that you would like to know. Are you available to put a quick call on the calendar? So not selling the product, and really just more about networking and using LinkedIn for what it's designed for, right? To a social network and collaboration. By the way, this is probably a good example, like that second paragraph there, which is the second sentence. That's a good example of there's probably words that could be trimmed out of there. So, using that kind of suitcase metaphor, that could be made a little shorter, which could, every time you get a word or sentence out of there, you increase the amount of people that actually read your message. So that's something you might want to try. And then, like, the next one is the keep me in minder. And I started thinking about this because so we're a software company, and I get a lot of freelance software developers who reach out to me through LinkedIn. And from time to time, I need to add a new one or replace one of our developers. So one thing that I do is I totally ignore their emails. By the way, the messages they send me are the product pushing message, and they're closing for me to hire them right then. But one thing I do is I leave them in my inbox so that when I need someone, I go back to them. And I've been thinking about it. I was like, well, their message isn't good, but the way that I use their email is a good process, and that's actually, we can use that as an idea for how to structure a message and also teach our prospects to keep our information. And I think this fits well if you sell a product or service that's routinely purchased. For example, we could apply this to the payroll example. Payroll, there's some products that you're selling something and they aren't using what you sell, and you want to get a meeting with them to sell what you sell. But there's a lot of stuff like payroll where that they're using someone today. If they're a business and they have people that they have to pay, they're using some sort of process, and most likely an outsourced payroll provider. But you could apply this to payroll, you could apply this to office supplies, you could apply it to anything that's regularly purchased. And what you would want to, the logic here is that odds are when you're messaging this person that you're not going to reach out to them at the exact moment that they're wanting to purchase. For example, I hire software developers all the time, but the odds that one of those people emails me on the exact day or week or month that I need to hire someone new is not very likely. That's why I hang on to their message. But why don't we maybe it would be better if they communicated more in line with that. So let me show you what this template is. Hello, prospect. I see that you're the CEO of a software company, so you might need or purchase software development services from time to time. Just kind of inserting my own stuff there. We provide that, but I'm not reaching out to try to sell to you because it would be tough to time this message perfectly with when you are ready to purchase. Again, probably a couple words that could be trimmed out of that second sentence there. So what I would like to do is ask you to keep this message in your email in one of your email folders as a new option for you when you are ready to purchase or make a change. Some ways that we differ from your other options are: we provide a fixed fee per project. We have, whatever. You could insert your differentiation points there. And that's it. Let me know if you'd like to schedule a brief call. The email's teaching the prospect to interact with us, because we're acknowledging that likely they don't need to purchase today what we sell, and we're coaching them to hang on to this email so that when they do, they know we're there. And then we include 3 ways we're different. But that's where you're putting something strong to help them to think that to give them a reason to hang on to your info. And then you're throwing out there, maybe they do need what you have today, so you're throwing out there, let me know if you'd like to schedule a brief call. So that's not necessarily saying, are you ready to meet today? I mean, if they do need what you have, it could be implied from that last sentence, or that last sentence of let me know if you'd like to schedule a brief call applies to 3 months from now, right? The last one is what I call the inviter. So this is, let's say you have events for your company and you'd like to invite your LinkedIn contacts to. For example, this webinar right here, I actually don't promote our webinars through LinkedIn, but if I wanted to, I certainly could. I have a lot of salespeople and business owners, and I could send a message to my contacts, connections with something like this. Hello contact, we have an event coming up and I wanted to share an invitation with you. You can register here. By attending this event, you could expect to improve how you communicate with prospects on LinkedIn, generate more leads, schedule more appointments with contacts on LinkedIn. We hope to see you there. So another template. This template, it's hard for me to give you a template for this because this template could change very easily depending on your event, right? You might include some details from the event, but I get, honestly, the reason why I included this here is more of a reminder to you to give you ideas, or more of an idea jogger for you, that if you're only sending product pushing, selling messages today, there's lots of different messages you can send to people on LinkedIn that help you to engage, get on their radar, and communicate. And you can either send a message like this, or this might give you an idea that maybe you should have more events and more webinars or conferences or whatever. So now a couple thoughts on following up. Now, first of all, I get this a lot where someone sends me a message on LinkedIn and I ignore it, and then they send me message number 2, and they're questioning me if I read or saw their first message, and it's something like this: Did you get a chance to read the other email I sent you? And I think that's wrong because in a lot of ways, because it's just kind of rude. I mean, obviously, if they're sending me a message and I didn't reply, there's a good chance I didn't. There's a good chance I did and I didn't care for it. So by them shining a light on that, it can make me defensive. It can make me feel bad. And it's sort of like, think about it socially. If there's someone you're interested in being friends with, just maybe platonically or romantically, and if you send them, let's say, a text message that they don't reply to, if you call them out on not replying to your message, you make them feel like a jerk. You create this uncomfortable tension between you and that other person where, yeah, they didn't reply to your message, and maybe it's because they didn't want to reply, or maybe they forgot to, or they didn't get a chance to. And by you calling them out saying, did you see my text message? Now, of course, if it's your sister or best friend, you can call them out saying, hey, you never replied. But if it's someone you're trying to establish rapport with, which these prospects qualify for, it creates a very negative tone and situation, and you're trying to establish communications with this person. So I would avoid that altogether. And so what I would recommend is, if they don't reply to your first message or your last message, just keep messaging them and ignore it. Don't shine a light on it. And that's what I would do socially too. Let's say there's a girl you really like or a boy you really like and they didn't reply to your message, just message them again, and don't really shine a light on the fact that they just totally ignored you, right? So just keep moving forward. Now, certainly, it's very safe to assume that if you send one message, they're probably not going to reply, even if you use all these tips that I've given you here today, which is something to keep in mind. I'm not sending you some magic, giving you magic beans that's going to get people to reply to every message you send. So it's safe to assume that you're going to have to follow up. So don't just send one message and then just move on. Like, honestly, so that the email message that I got today that I kept showing as an example, that person will probably not email me ever again. That was probably the one message, and if I deleted it, it's gone. He's gone, and nothing will ever happen, right? So he's only going to interact with people that reply to his first message, which drastically decreases his results. So, but then on the other side, I have people that I've been connected with that send me message after message, and I mean, I don't reply to any of their messages, and they just keep sending me invitations and trying to schedule meetings with me. And so don't just send endless emails. What I would recommend is send between 3 to 6 messages, and that applies if you get 0 response. If you get a couple, some sort of interaction, you could go beyond 6. But if they don't reply to any of your messages, it's just total silence, stop at 6. And then don't message too frequently. So I think a good flow is one message per week or every other week. And so that's kind of our approach now, or that's our approach to communicating through messages through LinkedIn. I want to share with you real quick another approach for you to think about, and it involves using Sales Scripter, because this is what we do. We use LinkedIn very aggressively for our prospecting. We used to connect with people on LinkedIn to get their email address, but what we do now is we have this tool in Sales Scripter. And what it is it's called the email guesser. And I'm just going to put my own information in here. And basically, if you're on someone's LinkedIn profile, you can get these 3 pieces of information in less than 30 seconds, very quickly. Even if they're not a contact. So you could do a search on LinkedIn based on someone's title or company or whatever, and very quickly you can get to someone you did not even know they existed 2 minutes ago, and you have these 3 pieces of information. Now, with these 3 pieces of information in business-to-business selling, you can guess their email address, because it's going to typically be some combination of those values. And what the email guesser in Sales Scripter does is it runs a little algorithm of different combinations and does a test ping and tells you what the correct email address is. So this 5th one down is the correct, that's my email address. And from that, then you can create a contact in Sales Scripter and load them up in Sales Scripter. Now what that allows you, well actually that's if you use the Sales Scripter CRM in terms of creating a contact. You could use your own CRM and use our email guesser, but what that allows you to do is it allows you to skip the whole let's become LinkedIn connections. And that what I believe that allows you to do is it allows your messages to go to their business inbox, and it allows you to avoid this whole like, okay, I connected but I don't want to sell to them because that's a little bit rude because they're a connection now, or I need to wait a period of time. This gives you so much more freedom. And what we've done in Sales Scripter is in Sales Scripter we actually have a folder of email templates. What we've done is we've created email templates for what we call saw you on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, I mean, one of those templates I showed you was the problem solver. This is kind of similar to the problem solver. So this is saw you on LinkedIn. I'll show you what this template looks like. So now remember that this email is not going through LinkedIn, so it's going to their business email address. But what we want to do is we don't want to manipulate or hide anything. We want to be authentic, so we're going to mention LinkedIn. So this is, hello contact, I came across you on LinkedIn and wanted to reach out. And so the rest of this email is very similar to what I already showed you. But it just starts out with I came across you on LinkedIn and want to reach out. And we're using, again, the email guesser to send this directly to them. So you could just copy this and send it through your whatever email account you use, or if you do use Sales Scripter, you can send this email template directly from our system. You can put in their name or pull them up from the CRM, make any changes and send this off, and we will track and notify you of opens and clicks. But so that's kind of a game changer in terms of how we've been prospecting on LinkedIn here internally. Now, if you recall, I mentioned to you, you're probably going to need to send them more than one message, and that applies to whether you're using LinkedIn or just sending emails in traditional email format. So what we've done is we use a thing called email threads, which are multiple emails strung together. And so like here's a saw you on LinkedIn email thread, and if I just show you what this looks like. So here is that problem solver message, and then you have the improver message, and then you have a name drop message, and then you have a qualify message, product message, and then last attempt. So you have 6 emails all designed to go out one per week. And so you could use the email guesser on LinkedIn and then send this through. Well, you could just grab those email templates and send them manually, or you could send that whole series of emails through Sales Scripter, and we'll automate the delivery of all of those. And you could certainly change those templates, to make you could change them, you could add more templates, make it a shorter thread. But the point is that there's 2 points. One is you're probably going to need to send more than one email, and point two is if you use Sales Scripter or a tool like ours, you can automate that string of emails. And the optimum way to do that to do this and really get a hold of someone, because it's hard to get a hold of people, right, is to send this thread and then be calling them in parallel with these emails being automated. So they have this series of emails going out to them, and then you're making calls as well. And again, and then everything else I showed you applies to all of this. We're selling the conversation, we're not selling the product. We're communicating in a consultative way. We're being respectful. We're using short emails. Everything I showed you in terms of the do's and don'ts apply to these threads. And if you don't want to use Sales Scripter, you could also send these messages directly through the LinkedIn messaging feature as well. It's just, as far as I know, there's no tools like automate that. So you would have to physically go in and once a week send the new message to someone, whereas with Sales Scripter you can automate that. So that's an alternative approach. It's been a game changer for us because we like not connecting with people. We love using LinkedIn to find people and then skipping the whole connection step. That's pretty much it. If you found this information to be helpful at all, I'd like to make a deal with you. If you found at least one tip in this presentation that is helpful to you, and then that means we've helped you in some way. And if you want to return that help to us then it's totally free. You don't have to spend anything with us or buy anything from us. Just go to YouTube and like any of our videos, or like this video, comment, share, subscribe, and that is a way for you to return the favor to us. If you want more help from us, this methodology and the tool I just showed you is part of a larger thing that we call the Smart Selling Sales System. So SMART stands for sales messaging. So the whole topic today is how to message prospects on LinkedIn, right? So there's lots of sales training methodologies out there. We are pretty much the only one that really helps you with what to say when you talk to someone on the phone, what to say when you write an email, what to say when you get an objection, what questions to ask. That's what we help with. We believe your best sales tool are the words that come out of your mouth and the words you put on paper. So sales messaging and response tactics, so how you respond to objections, how to respond to answers to questions. So that the sales system is something you can implement either for yourself or for your salespeople, and you can kind of think of it as a three-legged stool. So leg number one is a methodology. Everything I've shown you here today is a methodology, meaning we're giving you a process, we're telling you what not to do and what to do and when to do it, and so that's a method, right? And our methodology, this topic here is just one piece to an entire sales prospecting methodology, and you can actually access our full methodology on YouTube for free at this playlist here called the Smart Sales System Training Program. There are tons of videos on this playlist, and you can go through and watch the whole thing for free. And you can also get access to our methodology through our free ebooks on our website, and also we have a book on Amazon that you can purchase as well. And the reason why we give away a lot of that for free is because of the leg number two, which is a software platform, and I showed you a little bit of that here today. Our business strategy is not to sell training or consulting. Our business strategy is to get more subscribers to our software, and for those subscribers to be happy and stay with us for a long time and refer their family and friends to us. So that's our strategy. We're not trying to sell software to people that don't want it, don't need it, and trick people into buying our software and whatnot. But our software basically includes a feature called a Sales Pitch Builder. It includes a library of scripts and templates. It includes CRM functionality and email automation. And the third leg to the stool is certainly we do provide professional services in the form of either consulting, working with you to build your scripts and your messaging and your processes, or sales coaching, helping you to work on a recurring basis, working through challenges, driving results, actually